Hello kids, we are on our next video lesson. Your note should look similar to this for the first page. Anger relationships is the name of the game. Really vocab heavy, but it's vocab that we will literally use the entire year long, like till May, so it's good vocab. You'll become very familiar with it, so it's kind of a lot right now, but don't worry, you will become, it'll just become like second nature for you, okay? So let's get started here. I'm going to just zoom in just a tish. Okay, let's start with the vertical angles on the top. So vertical angles are two angles across from each other on intersecting lines, and they are always congruent. So let's just first, will you guys highlight, underline the always congruent? So they're always the same measure. And let's see what they look like. So you have two intersecting lines, and they are the angles across from each other. So let's say I have angle 1, 2, 3, 4. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because these two are vertical angles. And angle 2 is congruent to angle 4 because those two are vertical angles. So they are the ones that are directly across from each other. Okay, let's shimmy over to linear pairs. So a linear pair are two angles that are, just kidding. Let's do adjacent angles. We got to know what these are first. My bad. Okay, adjacent angles. Two angles that are directly next to each other and share a common side. So let's just draw to see what that looks like. Let's say I have an angle like this. Angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent because they share the same vertex and this side there. Does that make sense? Because they share a common side. They're right next to each other. They're connected. They're not separate. Okay, down on the bottom, we have complementary angles. And this can look two different ways, but they're any two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. So remember, sum means to add. So it could look like this. And we know that if you have a right angle, there's that little box there. So like angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary because together they would add to 90. So that's if they're adjacent, but let's pretend they were non-adjacent. So if they were just two random separate angles, let's say we have this angle right here, and this angle right here. Just two separate guys off in space. Let's pretend this one is 50 degrees and this one is 40 degrees. We can agree that 50 plus 40 is 90. So then these two angles right here would be also complementary. Okay, if we shift over to supplementary angles, very similar to complementary, but these are any two angles whose sum is 180. So this could look, again, two different ways. We could have a situation like this where they are connected. Let's pretend this is 120 degrees and this is 60, degrees. Do those add to 180? Yep, so they would be supplementary. Or again, you could have a situation where they're just separate. So let's pretend an angle right there. And then I need more space. I'm just gonna do it to the side here. I have these two angles. Let's pretend this one's 110 and this one is 70. 110 plus 70 does give me 180, so therefore we have supplementary angles. So complementary angles add to 90, supplementary angles add to 180. And then our last little angle relationship here are linear pairs. So a linear pair are two angles that are adjacent and supplementary, and they form a straight line. So do you guys see how we have the word line in linear, and pair means two? So two angles that make a line together is a linear pair. So an example of this, there's my line, and here are my two angles that form it. We can say this is 105 degrees and this is 75 degrees. So now let's just make sure we fit the criteria. They're adjacent because they share this middle ray. Okay, do they add to 180? 75 plus 105 does give me 180. So we are good to go. I know we went through that super fast, but again, we will use this vocab over and over and over and over, so it's just going to be like ingrained in your brain. Okay, let's go to the second page of our notes for today. It has this little identifying checkbox part. It's kind of blurry here. That's a little bit better. Okay, let's see what we can do with these. So it says check all relationships between angles 1 and 2. Here we go. So let's look at angle or question 1. So we have angles that are across from each other. So the first thing that we should be thinking is that they are vertical. Okay, do they share a side? Nope. Do we know if they add to 90? I don't know, they might, but we don't know anything about them. They're angle measure. Same thing with supplementary. They could add to 180, but we don't know that based on this picture. And they are not a linear pair. So they are just vertical. And just remember that that means that they would be the exact same measure. So if this was, let's say, 88 degrees, this one would also be 88 because they are the same. Okay, let's hop over to 2. Are angles 1 and 2 adjacent? Do they share a common side? Yes, they do. Are they across from each other? No. Do they add to 90 degrees? They do. Do you guys see how there's a little box there telling us that this angle's 90? Well, since this is a straight line, we would know that this would also be a 90-degree angle. So they are complementary. They do not add to 180, and they do not make a line. So they are adjacent and complementary. 3. Angles 1 and 2, are they adjacent? Yes, they share this side right here. So check that box. Vertical, are they across from each other? No, they are not across from each other. Do they add to 90 degrees? Are they complementary? That is also a negative. Are they supplementary? Do they add to 180? Since we know this is a straight line, we can assume that these two add to 180. So yes. And then since they are adjacent and supplementary, that makes them a linear pair. Number 4. Are they adjacent? Do they share a side? Yep, right here, folks. So that's a yes. Are they across from each other? No, they are not. Do they add to 90? They could, but we don't know that. We have no angle measures. Do they add to 180? Not based off this picture. We don't know that. And same thing with a linear pair. We don't know that they add to 180. So they are just adjacent. All right, number 5. Let's see here. Are they adjacent? Do they share a side? Nope. Are they vertical? Are they across from each other? Yep, so do you guys see how I have two intersecting lines making angles 1 and 2? So they are vertical. Are they complementary? So this one's they're trying to trick you, but you guys are pretty smart kids. So do you guys see how we have little archy marks here, right? So that means this would also have an archy mark. So all 3 of these angles are the same. And then we also have that right angle box. So then I would know that these 2 angles right here would make a right angle. And since I need 2 of those to form a right angle, if I added angle 1 and angle 2 together, I would actually get a right angle. So let me break that down. Maybe that was confusing and I apologize. Since I know these two are congruent angles and I know they have to add to 90, what's 90 divided by 2? Well, it's 45. So if this angle is 45 and this angle is 45, and since these are vertical, I know angle 2 is 45 degrees. Now let's take 45 plus 45, and we get 90 degrees. If you're confused on that, we can talk about that in class together. Let me know. But yes, they are complementary. All right, and our last little pair here, angles 1 and 2. Are they adjacent? No, they do not share a common side. Are they vertical? Yes, they are across from each other, so they are congruent as well. Do they add to 90? No. Actually, in this case, they equal 90 because if this is a right angle, all my other angles here are right angles, which makes them supplementary, right? Because 90 plus 90 equals 180. But do they form a linear pair? Do angles 1 and 2 make a line? No, they are just supplementary. Okay, we will do these bottom 2 in class together. Thanks for following along and watching this video lesson. Have a super rest of your day, and I will see you in class.